England 4, Croatia 2, and I don't know about you guys, but as an England fan, that is probably the most invested I have ever been for the opening game of a tournament. It felt like it had real jeopardy. It felt like a knockout game, like we had to win, and eventually we did. You know, Croatia put in a really good performance. They showed how much quality they've still got, but England eventually made a real statement here. So despite making a statement in this game, the start wasn't perfect for England. Granted, we scored quite early in the game with the penalty, but I don't think the first half was that good. It felt stuck. We of course heard from the assistant manager at half time how annoyed he was, and Tuchel giving the big speech at half time as well. The question is, what was going wrong in the first half? What was the plan for England and why didn't it work? So, we'll start off playing out from the back, which is something that England want to do. England want to play out from the back. They just happened to come up against a Croatia side that pressed more aggressively than pretty much any team at the tournament so far. On goal kicks, they were really high up the pitch, really looking to commit. But in a way, England's own structure sort of helped Croatia with that a little bit. Because what we did was we pushed O'Reilly high and wide down the left. And we did the same with Reece James on the right-hand side. And the problem with this was that it made sort of an easy locking point, an easy pressing trigger, if you like, for the two Croatian wingbacks. Perisic and Stanisic both now have this clear player that they are able to jump to. Now, they don't need to go super high, super early. They can sort of hold off in these deeper positions. But the second we play a longer ball to O'Reilly, Stanisic is able to jump. So what we did was we sort of created a structure at times where it was quite easy for Croatia to come and play man-to-man. And, you know, England will get criticised for not being able to deal with this in the early stages. But you try it. You know, it's very difficult to play out from the back against man-to-man pressure. We see teams at club level who work together day in, day out over years still struggle to play out from the back against this sort of pressure. So this was one of the problems for England. There wasn't enough bravery perhaps on the ball. I think Jordan Pickford's one-footed nature was a bit of a problem at times in the first half. But the weapon that we did have was the ability to go long. Because if Croatia are going to try and lock on man-to-man, well, it does mean there are going to be situations where we can go long to these guys. Now, Madueke and Gordon aren't exactly aerial targets to aim for. Harry Kane is pretty good in the air. But it's definitely the threat, right? And this is why throughout the first half, despite not playing that well, England were still dangerous, the more dangerous team than Croatia, because we've still got those players that we can go long to. And of course, in these moments, they can produce quality. Despite that quality, it still wasn't quite right for England in the first half. We all felt it, that the team wasn't performing in the way that we expected. It wasn't as bright, it wasn't as sharp, and it didn't have the spark that we have come to expect under Thomas Tuchel. And you know, again, the comments were made at half time. This didn't feel like Thomas Tuchel's England side. You know, sort of the blueprint that we've seen. We did a tactical build-up on this channel looking at the way that England would set up. And one of the things that I was very keen to point out before the tournament was that the formation isn't what it appears to be. When you see a starting 11 released and you see Declan Rice, Elliot Anderson and Jude Bellingham, you sort of anticipate a 4-2-3-1 with two deeper midfielders and then one higher in Jude. And that's wrong normally. Normally, what we actually see is Anderson plays deeper, Rice goes high and plays almost the same role as Bellingham does. That's what we have come to expect under Thomas Tuchel. But actually, in the first half of this game, it was Declan Rice a lot deeper alongside Elliot Anderson. I don't know if this was tactically intentional. You know, the comments that we've heard would suggest that it perhaps weren't. Maybe it was the team being too cautious. You know, is Declan Rice trying to be too safe? Is he dropping too deep? There were moments where he could sort of pull out wider as well. But it just sort of disrupted the flow for England in the middle of the pitch. Playing with the double pivot, plus Harry Kane also coming deep, made us a bit congested here at times and a lack of presence up here, even though we do have plenty of players that can run past the ball still. But the other problem is sort of the knock-on effect here. If Declan Rice is coming deeper, it meant that O'Reilly on the left-hand side really pushed quite far forward to go and play alongside Gordon. But as well as playing forward, he played really wide, O'Reilly, which he is capable of doing. He's a good overlapping fullback, but actually naturally he's more of a midfielder. And if you look at Rice's passing map in the first half, you can see it here, quite deep and quite central. And if we look at O'Reilly's passing map, you can see it's very wide on the left-hand side. At half-time, that needed to change because England needed to find their rhythm. Now, of course, you all saw the second half. It did change and we did find our rhythm, and that is because Thomas Tuchel is a tactician. He's the sort of manager who in the biggest games can make a change. He can recognise when something isn't working and go, all right, we're going to try and change this. So what did he do? Well, the first thing that he did in the deeper phase, playing out from the back, is he pulled the fullbacks a little bit deeper and he tucked them in a little bit closer together. So O'Reilly, rather than sort of playing on the halfway line on the left, just tucked in a little bit more central here. Look at his pass map now in the second half. Much more central actions in and around the halfway line. He's not, fully inverted into midfield, but he's certainly playing much more central than what he did in the first half. That, of course, has a knock-on effect. Declan Rice now plays higher. Look at Declan Rice's second half pass map. You can see much higher down the left-hand side. No longer deep in the middle of the pitch, now released further forward. And this was very important for England, because with O'Reilly and James both tucking in a little bit deeper alongside Anderson, it made it far more difficult for the two Croatian wing-backs to lock on and apply pressure. Right, when Reece James is high and wide, it's easy for Perisic to attach to him. And it's the same with O'Reilly on the other side. However, when these guys start tucking in almost... They're not quite midfielders, but they're certainly tucking in and playing inside. It's very difficult now for Perisic to commit to go man-to-man there, because it's a very unnatural position for a wing-back to go into. And it's exactly the same, if not even worse, for Stanisic on the other side. He's a full-back by trade, so by going high in the press here, it's not natural to him at all. So this is how England now were able to find the spare man, if not two spare men, when we were building up with the ball. That's why we had more of the ball in the second half, because our little tactical tweak just broke the Croatia high press, and that meant that they were then forced to play a little bit deeper. England now finally go into the shape that we expect under Thomas Tuchel, and of course we saw how electric that shape was, but it's the two centre-backs building possession, it's the two full-backs either side of Elliot Anderson, and Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice playing similar roles to each other, just on the opposite side of the pitch, and then Gordon and Madueke playing wider, and this is when England came to life. So why did England suddenly come to life in this shape? Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, the nerves have calmed a little bit. The first 5 minutes of the game from Croatia were quite quick and actually on England. And you do get those nerves in the first game. For a few of these players, this is their first tournament start. So, you are going to be nervous coming into it. Of course you are. But I think as England grow into the game, we settle in the second half. We score early in the second half. But we get our foot on the ball, we control possession better, and players are now in more natural positions. Naturally, you are going to see an improved level of performance. We also saw greater intensity off the ball as well, which is going to help us look after the ball, more importantly. But the other reason why we saw such an improvement in the second half was because now we get our two wide triangles. O'Reilly, Rice and Gordon on the left, James, Bellingham and Madueke on the right-hand side. And of course, eventually, this was Bukayo Saka. The wide triangles between the fullback, the central midfielder and the winger. These are crucial to everything that England want to do. This is where Thomas Tuchel is truly an elite manager. There are not many managers in world football, in the history of world football, that can coach these wide triangles in the way that Tuchel does. And this was key to absolutely everything England did in the second half, because these guys are rotational. They don't hold their position. So it looks like James deep and narrow, Bellingham high and narrow, and Madueke high and wide. But this can change. Players can make runs off the ball. They can go past each other. But they're always going to work in a triangle, and they're always going to be close together. One of them's going to come towards the ball. The other one's going to spin in behind and make a run. This is crucial for England at this tournament. If England are to win the World Cup, it will be because of these wide dynamics. And Harry Kane in the middle, who's pretty good at football. But in the second half, we saw these England wide triangles finally clicking, coming into play and tearing Croatia apart. And we see this for both the third and the fourth goal. Wide on the right-hand side, you can see sort of the triangle. Elliot Anderson hooks a ball into the channel, and Jude Bellingham, the central midfielder, has rotated. He has gone into an underlapping position, gets himself into the final third. The goal is a joke, to be fair. It's absolutely absurd. It's an insane quality. But that's what we've got in the England squad. And then the fourth goal as well, which kills the game. It's the triangle on the right-hand side. It's the likes of James, Spence and Bukayo Saka working together down the right-hand side in that triangle that we have spoken about before then, of course, eventually releasing Marcus Rashford on the far side, who sort of shows that killer instinct in the final third, scores, England win 4-2. And if we're being honest, that flattered Croatia a little bit. I genuinely believe that flattered Croatia. I think they were lucky to be in that game, really. The first half, yeah, they were competitive, but I think that was largely because England were poor. The second that England turned it on, we could have scored 5 or 6 goals in this game quite comfortably. I think England were fantastic in the second half. And what was so great to see was that, it's 3-2 up. Declan Rice comes off, granted as a precaution, but we could have put Jordan Henderson in there. We could have put Kobbie Mainoo in there, who would control the game a little bit more. But we choose to go for Morgan Rogers. You know, Rashford comes on for Gordon. That's an attacking change. Saka comes on the right wing for Madueke. The quality and depth of this England team was on display in that second half. Reece James goes into midfield, showing how versatile he is. I think England approached the second half so well. It was great to see England against a good side. By the way, good side at a World Cup where England normally struggle in those games. In the second half, sort of realised that as England, you are the big boys in this game. You are the better team. You're the dominant force. So go out and be that. And that's exactly what England did, you know, sort of from minute 45 to minute 90. I think we looked very, very good. Are there some concerns with regards to the performance? Absolutely, in the first half especially. I think on the ball there was the problems that we've spoken about. I also think defensively, in the first half, we weren't aggressive enough. We've got to get these guys moving forward. You know, you see here that about 7 minutes into the game, this is where our midfielders should be. Hunting, winning the ball high, as opposed to the second goal that we concede, where they're here really deep. But get these England players on the front foot, and they're world class. So yes, a bit of a tricky first half, a bit of a stressful first half, which is probably why we got so invested. But eventually, England were fantastic in the second half of this match. Truly brilliant. The tactical balance that Tuchel found in the second half was almost perfect, and the individuals were high quality, which is what we've come to expect from this England team. You know, the quality, I've got to keep pointing it out, is absurd. You've got Anthony Gordon, who's going for 80 million to Barcelona. You've got Harry Kane, who's maybe the great striker of all time. Noni Madueke, Bukayo Saka, Jude Bellingham, and then Morgan Rogers comes onto the pitch. You've got Declan Rice. You know, the quality in that team is just insane. And Tuchel in the second half platformed them much better. I do just think it's important that moving forward, England make sure to get on the front foot earlier, because a better team, by the time we hopefully get to the knockouts, you know, you can't afford a slow 45 minutes. You've got to be on it from the off. Hopefully that confidence is now there to play with that freedom, to play in the way that Tuchel wants. Because that's what we saw in the second half. That was Tuchel's blueprint. It was everything that we spoke about in our preview videos before the tournament. Play in Tuchel's way, and this England squad can go all the way. Of course, they're going to need some luck with injuries, with deflected goals, with refereeing decisions perhaps. Like every team at this tournament, you need luck if you want to go all the way. But are England capable of winning that beautiful trophy? Yeah, we very much are. So that's why I've got this big smile on my face this morning. I think that's really enjoyable, and the way that England should play eventually. So yeah, we're going to wrap the video up there. Thank you guys very much for watching this one. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But apart from that, we are finished. So thank you, and I will see you in the next one.